Welcome. In this episode, we're going to discuss manifesting in regard to the present and the future. In other words, people sometimes wonder and perhaps even get confused about what to concentrate on. You've got the past, you've got the present, you've got the future, at least from your perspective. And when you're trying to manifest something in the future, you are likely to spend a lot of time imagining that future. But then there's advice out there that says, well, wait a minute, you're always supposed to be in the present. The present is your point of power. That is the only place anything is really occurring. The past is gone and the future has not yet arrived. And when it does, guess what? Surprise, it will then be the present. So the past and future perhaps do not even exist for all extents and purposes. On the timeline that you're living in the apparently linear time progression on this earth plane, it seems as though that's all you've got, is the present. And you only capture the past in your imagination, in the memories that you hold on to, and you only capture the future, likewise, in the imagination, in the projections, in the dreams that you hold for it. Now, there is truth to everything we just said, but because you're a multidimensional being talking to another multidimensional being, or rather, we're talking psychically right now, but you're listening to us verbally, we all should know that that is only one way of looking at it. Because while there is indeed a linear structure to time on your planet, there is a past, present, and future. You can see it, you have it in your experience, it seems to be a law of this planet. At the same time, there is no real time in a multidimensional sense. In other words, in the greater universe, time is an artificial construct that's imposed upon places like Earth, material realms, in order to give it a sense of order, in order that you'll have an environment within which to enact these reincarnating lives that you're living. Because you're ultimately a multidimensional being of consciousness, you're simultaneously living in the fetters, in the structure of time, past, present, future, and in a multidimensional essence, one which transcends all time and space. So therefore there is no past, present, or future. You are that in your essence. And even in these bodies, don't be deceived by their physicality. You are still at your core this multidimensional being of consciousness. This being is actually the very thing that's creating this body. So you're also creating your experiences and you're contributing to the creation of time itself, both for yourself personally and collectively. Therefore, you can tap into your multidimensional awareness when you're trying to manifest something in the future. So let's revisit some of the advice that people give each other on this planet, to just focus on the now. Don't worry about the past. You can no longer change it. And the future is not here yet. So don't dwell on it too much. Just do the best you can in the present moment. Focus on that. Put your energy on that. Now, there is a lot of truth to that, as we said. You are in the present moment. So that is where your focus seemingly always is. But that doesn't mean you must ignore the future. Because when the question of how to manifest something you want into your life arises, you must reckon with the idea of the future. Because that is where it begins. That is where the seed is planted, again from the perspective of your linear time. And we're going to just acknowledge that there is linear time, and from now on in this episode we'll address it as such, rather than saying apparently all the time. So in the linear construct of time, if you want something to happen in the future, it begins in the future, and then you're attempting to bring it into the present. You're attempting to co-create, or however you like to think of it, to manifest it, to steer it into your experience, into the present moment that you will be in when you meet it sometime in the future. So you must reckon with it. You must give it some energy. You must think about it. You must feel it on some level. You can't just flat out ignore it, of course. Now, some people say, well, concentrate on the feeling of what you want. And that's very good advice when you are trying to manifest something, when that is your goal, manifesting a specific outcome and experience, something in your material life, something that you can experience on the earth plane. Yes, by all means, tapping into the feeling of something, tapping into how it feels to have resources and freedom, perhaps, if you want to attract a lot of money. Feelings, self-worth, feeling love, if you want to attract a special relationship, etc., etc. Those feelings are the core of the experience. So yes, it makes sense that if you're residing in that overall feeling, then you are generating the energy with which to draw to you the corresponding events and experiences and people in the material plane. We agree with that. And that's a great thing to do. You should be doing that as a general practice. Feeling the feelings that you want to experience, whether they're related to something specific you're trying to manifest, or whether it's just a general feeling you want to embody on this earth plane. It actually makes no difference. You should be feeling and embodying that which you want to experience. So then some may argue, well then, if that's the case, PRISM, then do we really have to think or imagine anything specifically in the future? Why not just hold on to a feeling of abundance, a feeling of having resources, and then let the universe decide what experiences will come to us? And that also has a lot of truth to it, in the sense that you're not going to be able to necessarily pick and choose, as if you're in a grocery aisle, everything that you're going to receive and experience in the future. Now, there are some things on your blueprint, and you're going to get those things. Your blueprint meaning that which you have chosen, your oversoul has chosen for you, the individual incarnated expression of yourself, to experience in this incarnation. You, on the other side, as it were, came up with certain things that were put on the blueprint. Some in pen, meaning they are definitely going to happen, and perhaps very specifically, and others in pencil, which means something generally in this area is going to occur, but there's all sorts of possibilities for exactly how it will play out. And there's other things that aren't on the blueprint at all that will just occur. You'll experience them as a result of your actions and your feelings and your energy patterns in the life once you're here on Earth. But let's say you specifically want to create something like abundance or a relationship. Now, you may have something very specifically in mind. You may want to win the lottery or something, or meet a person that has these or those qualities. So you're going to hold on to specific thoughts, imagery about what it is you want to occur. Now, it's always good to have flexibility. You want to allow the universe to have room to maneuver. You don't know necessarily what's on your blueprint. So you need to have faith that that which you need to have arrive through the blueprint will arrive, and it's the best thing for you. It's the thing that you've chosen. On the other hand, if something's in pencil, you have more control over what specifically will manifest. So there's no reason not to hold a specific idea. You would do well to get into the details and to feel and think and imagine exactly what you want, albeit even though it's in the future. Now, if you engage in this kind of activity, you must make sure that it feels good. You want to make sure it's an uplifting energy. It's something that makes you feel giddy. It makes you feel the emotions. It makes you feel the experience as best you can, sensorily and emotionally, as if it were already happening. You want to experience it to that degree of vividness. That'll help you connect with it. And by being in that degree of vividness with happy, uplifted, positive energy, full of faith and joy, then you're on the right track. If it feels stressful, if it feels forced, if it's bringing you down in any manner, then perhaps the details are too much and you want to focus on the generality rather than worrying about exactly how you're going to get this abundance, or exactly what this perfect partner looks like, down to the eye color and hair color. Just imagine what it would feel like to be loved by that person, to have all the resources that you need. So you have to be the judge of how specific and detailed you're going to get with your manifestation techniques. But if it feels good and the details feel good, then you should dive in with great enthusiasm and embrace those details and play with them and make it a part of your day. There's no limit on how much you can live in that energy. If it feels right to do it for hours on end during the day, then do so if you've got the time and inclination. If you can only do it periodically, then that's all right also. It is the strength and the faith that you put into it which is ultimately going to determine how you link with it in a future date. So the important thing when manifesting something is the strength of the feeling. When you are projecting into the future, when you're imagining it, if you accompany that with a great depth of sensory feeling, what does it feel like to have that future experience, that event occurring to you? What does it feel like to be with the loved one that you want to manifest, to have the resources that you want to create? What does the sights, the smells, the emotions, what does that feel like? That's what you hold on to. And it's the power and potency of it that's the most important. If you have all day to manifest it, that's fantastic. You can spend hours living in that point of reference in the futures. If you can only do it for 10 minutes a day, that's okay too, as long as you're doing it with great exuberance, with great faith and determination, immersing yourself in the feeling of that which you want to manifest. Now, if it aligns with the blueprint, if you have the will, the determination to create it, you will eventually be able to bring it forth into reality. And that is the important thing to focus on. Now, this brings us back, though, to the question of when you're focusing on being present, being in the now, being in the moment, how much time, if at all, should you spend thinking about this future? That's what we're discussing. And we're telling you that since you're multidimensional beings, you have the ability to bring the future and the now together. You live simultaneously in past, present, future on some level, in the deep level of your core being as a being of consciousness. You can access that level. You can access that point of awareness, that point of power in your consciousness to help you manifest things in this material realm. As a matter of fact, that is exactly how you do it naturally anyway. So the idea of only focusing on the present, it can be a little deceiving. Yes, you're in the present, but anytime you're in your consciousness, you're in the present. And that's a very important point. When you're thinking about the past, some memory, you're in the present at the same time. You're bringing the memory of the past and the moment of the now together. That might as well be the past revisiting it into the present. In other words, you can become so immersed in an old memory that it feels like you're reliving it, right? You've been there before. You're essentially going back to the energy, you're going into the past and making the present refashioned into that old experience. Same thing for the future. If you go into a deep enough reverie or daydream about what you wish to occur in the future, it can become so real that you can momentarily convince yourself you're actually living in it. And by the way, that's exactly the kind of sensory experience, the kind of emotion and energy that you want to bring to bear on this manifestation process. You want to become so immersed that it feels like the now. And in doing so, you are essentially living in the future. You're living in that moment of imagination. So once again, any time that you are in your consciousness, which by the way is all the time, you are in the present, whether you're concentrating on the present or the past or the future. So that is a great clue to how you can bring the future into the present. When you have the right energy, and when you're excited about that which you're manifesting, then it's the natural way to make it happen. to be so invested in it that it becomes your present. You build a bridge, essentially, from where you are now to where you want to be in the future. It's really a multidimensional transition. You're transcending time and space to bring the feelings, evoking the future into your present state of being, into eventually allowing the material world to catch up to you and fashion that experience in physical form. So, just to recap quickly, don't be afraid of being lost in the past or the future to the point where you're not living as you should be in the now. Of course, you want to be present. That's a good catchphrase, and it means different things to different people. But in the sense of you want to be aware of what is going on around you, aware of yourself, aware of your relationship to the energy, experience, the people, the environment around you at all times as best you can. But your consciousness in your essence, you are multidimensional in your essence. Your very nature is to always be present to yourself no matter what you're thinking about. So in that regard, your very act of being conscious, and even more so when you're consciously thinking very strongly about something, is putting you in the present moment of whatever it is you're dwelling on, whether it's past, present, or future. So if you want to manifest the future, really bring it into your being, then when you're in the now, feel as though that future really is here. Allow it to be merged with you right now, because it is here. It does exist. It's out there. It exists in a timeless place, in a place that transcends time and space. And when you connect to it with your energy, then you're building a bridge that will create it eventually in this physical form. So we hope that's helpful for those of you who may be struggling with concepts of whether to be present and whether to think about what you want to have in the future and how these two things relate. The key is your consciousness. You are consciousness. So you can transcend past, present, future. Whatever you're dwelling on with that strong sense of faith and excitement will eventually come into physicality. There is a lag time, as you well know, but it is that force of being, of focusing your being, your consciousness on what you want, that becomes the catalyst. Until next time, we love you.